Abusuafo na ti sen Ghana fo na mo ti sen meninse mo hoye obo ade no enka obi a so what you say meninse obi a hoye assalamu alaikum hotep common sense adwene na enye adwuma body ne yeden ebre say adwene ne ye adwuma wo Ghana ho adwene no be ye adwuma say adwene ne ye adwuma to the point say no your friend is saying a Christopher ni nkramofo aye baako kane na miswa a nkramofo preach against a Christopher especially omo Yesu na ya na omo si omo kum no ne duru ho a me ka say me brother baako no ekramoni me cousin o si hwe hwe enti so fi say eyeti eyampa ni omo ye yampa na nka wo papa bi enanka owu sa sei enanka afibia ye ni sei kirewa anke be ye wode. So what you say? Obisa me say na me say anyway. Enso batene say omo aye one e say Christopher fight e nkramofo ne Christopher aye one fight e fight e ma omo yonko. San so na ye friend say e say asofo yi na no me hwe ya asofo aye one. So what you say? Na atakora me chiew. De asofo ya one say air fight for each other. Anu me hu ba ku bi ade somewhere bi me nwa ba ma ho te sen me hu ba ku bi na ye friend say sofo bi e defend owu su bempa kani na nka sofo we say me na me den we say me na me den we say me na metumu yi kire sese de adwene ne ye adwuma so what ase ama omo fight ama obi a abibifo adwene no beye adwuma dampare IGP mechiawo waya ade say wama ade waka ade akromfo ya no atum oba pa chan de mechiawo waya ade dampare so waka mo anu atum aja ha de weda nasna yekusu wankasa enti no weda ne yesa so na wo holiday through there then eno ani se wu no aduane no wadi na wada eno anu no before etina mbachi adam pario na mechi a ade enwan no so omo ye ready ade omusika eko akoma nwanhwefo na eden adi anka me hu ye odwanhwefo pa una wo de o ade wo mu akọ adidie so what you say etwa seregu ho ma ne ho na se ade epabirisi a o de ama wo mu adi we de odwan no odwanhwefo we mu modern day odwanhwefo a mo bade ade fo omo de omo kan say prophetic idea ministry omo de omo je free nwan ne ho omo dure ni nwan no moja dure ni omo moja before obo ade ni kan obi a ho meda wase unya ho na wa hye ama me so betimi a enti no na mum ye nkohwe ya friend say asori a ye kan wa mamudu mechiawo asori se ya kwakọ se akọ mo nkunanhye asem aka adwuro mo se so seed na nyame be hyirawo oti eze ya sondem a adie ntutu so dudu ni duru ho a adie no mo kopono no ho a nipa num na ekọ ne obeka adie nyamsem obe preach sada no ne ya obe promote adie ntutu so dudu ho asem so what you say da bia ewom eze wontwe ntutu so dudu ayensie wo ayensie omo si twa ntutu so dudu na nyame ayeden ahyirawo so at the same time no adie obi pemu a yemwa no meka se na meka se adie atinse 92 no mu ho se 91 mu ho na emrantie bi obi omo so omo pedan na se nipa omo pedan wo tata no omo doso ena omo si aso panyin kobo mpayem emo mpayem omo pedan aso panyin question obi sa first ne say wa wo adie 2 years advance gina ha wa wo ni bi esu gina ha omo nyina ni bi asopanyin na mompaye no asopanyin ka kire omo se na emire mu so so pedan han na wo ni 2 years advance dia en ha ho so what you say ene dia o mana ye reality am wo hu ni se eso wo pedan a eso onya 2 years advance ansa wa pedan nya so to ha na wo ni sika se me pedan han obi en fa ma but ni ye de manya me de eni de enye reality o fabra fantutuso dudu no bra nyame na hwe se nyame mmie wo pono ma adie na pono ma nhira ma ofie a before duru say yedwene so what yesi saata me meto mapatam akwakotena ezi ya sonde mu eduru kwasiada memenda me to mapatam memenda na yeto ade akotena ezi ya sonde mu kwasiada me ba bebia ni ya ono no bie memenda no eno osamba kwasiada kane na nipa ma mebie apata na ntime kwa na yeto ade ya kakra afedie achire omu se o se kwasiada so yeto ade na amanfo start by ni ono no ekobie ne de memenda esambe bie ni kwasiada yebeto na de mo before eyentro mum yemfanto nchen so what yase sa bible no munsem ni nyina no eyenada menua citizen kwame na ho te se hotep mum yemfanto nchen na yenhwe ade yesamu se ade new year 31st night nyame ba ebe yi no ho kire mo asofo edi a enti mo nyame no ada no wanka kire mo se sa new year na abrofo no de akwakwohye no a o mo de akwakwohye cheji calendar no ye nanamo no na enye ye new year no ada ne yanka kire mo obibini ni nyina yeden eyentro nyame yu ne ho nkire obia momyam yenhwe sa papa wei adie ya friend say sa prophet we me de bia me hwe ni video ba ko so wakọ honhom abana o say I watch and look na branimu ono so akosuku awie ekura degree yes or de dwene edi creative bibi ma no ho ene oman no ono so dinachi me hu yi na me hweye ne ehunhum mu ni ohun ye hweye before mum yenkotie sa I watch and look imra sa papa we nani brabre so wo see your friend is saying wo see your friend is saying adie nyame oh ya adwuma manyame dia manyame makunu ntokwa obibini mum yentie no
unto all the prophets nyankopon taking time to raise you yentra ho emma this guy to insult us. Bueno, just say, it's an insult to our ministry. Our prophets following Jimmy. How can you talk like that? Meanwhile, you are God to call yourself a prophet. Prophet if you drew. Now, Nientia me cheki ni okano. Ane ne atmosphere ne bibi oye no nyoma miensa na mehuye. One, mahuse nyame say free so. Yes. The first one, say, I anointed. The guy is not anointed. You can't pure oiler, and you deep. And anointing, the man profound anointing to insult other men of God, to bring you down so that they can feel good of themselves. Tell you, John the Baptist cried and no, you're wild. No, this also, and maybe any other, so no. You honor him. That this is the Lamb of God who has taken the sins of the world. So, don't mean generalizing everything. To as some kind of don't mean generalizing. Said the whole Ghana for no. I am quasi for me, Jimmy for Yamin Casantrobia. But who did this away also for? Who did say Yamia Fro? Who did this say? Who Yami Wafro? But will be the Yamin friend. So you want to reduce other men of God, you want to blackmail other men of God so that you can feel good of yourself. I'm one who shall come 31st. No, I'm one of them. That's why until I'm a wolf. No, me can't be. And to a case of more, I'm shall come 31st. Indirectly, he's insulting me. But me starting a Mijumajano. Me shall come on na okosku. No, a student. Nyani tip enemy. A buy shira, nyani tip enemy. A bad exposure, and nyani tip enemy. Mumusa baby, according to baby or two. What could do? Be sure to land the Ankosha or Kakrabi, Uncle no buy. And in South Africa, I've traveled to almost 80 countries within the space of 25 years. I've raised more than 2,000 prophets. Well, no, in the corridors of power, one in Wako, Dr. Uzubempa is an influential prophet. He's a nation prophet. The government, both the past and the new, they all accept him. They recognize him in this life. The people he has impacted. And it is Oshang Komufa Bibiwa. You can't insult him. A bra wabono, umubi. Sabi, upa, and check his cook a crabin will be was or a trebin a shakona. Asa, Who's work school? She send you see Jina Okasa. Send you see Jina Okasa.
Before na mo hu ne course ne de na me ne amenti ase ne se o se wo ye nyame adwuma eduru adie 31st night e na nyame no ano o sifiri soro so what ase me nwa free dan kam meche wo so what ase Addison meche wo o free soro bra beden eba ba beden be che Andrews meche wo so what you say eba na obaba bebe yi ne ho kire mo mama nkoma kese na nipa dasani nipa ne hwan a obetima twa nyam obese nyame adwuma stop nyame na adwuma na nipa dasani say hey me mama onye sa ade na nyame wo he ada na mo nyame makone ntokwa anka nyame nkadampare nkanura na do da sori na no pain anka nyame apushire mo di America wo so eno kumechia wo so den abadie asofo mu nyina mesre mu medafom mesre mu na adwei mana minti mesre mu de mo nhye nkom bia mo nhye mo nkom masa mo ana mo ko bibifo we na kire se ntro hwe nipa ni bio na asida ni bi mfama ban mo she so what you say nipa ni bi age of a coron na bibia wo internet so pa benya a book ba ko read wi a ebetima ma more reference about nipa hodo a yatro books a ubetima ko refer what's your problem betina ho bibini nipa ni bi esese endi ese hwe se ansamrani a obo obusu bempa doctor hwan yete ho na omo de ye yusu nyame na nipa wa nyina ewo bookum bible mu no ani Quran no mu no ye yusu no brabakum brama na nyame na makuni ntokwa ne ye hwe bibifo yabre enti no eno na obi mu mama die say atam no jai but o stress o ba kire niam ma kire wo mo a na ye ba attack wo atam ti me attack with atam face inti bra so what you say yabre enya fe ne ye be krokro nipa so what you say e good say nipa betie wasem but eno so nkire say da forma ma nipa na ye ntieti a so ndidi watem no o de nyansa semba me no be hia ne nyansa mu na o yeso wagimi na o de bade a me de bema ye gimi eye too much ye gimi ache mommy an sorry ye gimi ama adie ya buya sa akwa we I look na watch o se dey I look na saw ono no na si ye interview no o se oba ho no na asori ma ni sika ono ani sika na de ye me wan so de correction sa no motie esa asori bia na me confess and na me ko azie sa oye wi a o se mo twa na mutwa ya bo afode atwa sika no o se me ho antwa kese bia so what you say sa no motie obaju sika owi obeka tro se wonye hwe ma no nyame bia nyi ne ho nkire obi a bibifo nyame nyi ne ho nkire eden obi a new year no ye na nam new year no enye ani January so what you say ebe ye na nam new year April mu ho spring na ya start new year enya adie moto ho de ntro eni krono ayusu nyame din ade boni pa krono abibifo yabremu asofo no yabremu sesei enti ene mire wusu obegimi na be ye odwan a na ye wa na ope so what you say ajiman mechi yawo wusu be ye odwan na odi obetena ho me na mema no kura na mode anom ho ye misire bamba mu na ato odwan me na ato na oti asonde mu ho na ade asofo we mu na papa ba ko bia me hu no na sofo obi nem de nsa boso pa na o ma ne nkoma kese we ye me so what you say ene mere mu obi bini wo so hu na o ye jata so what you say bamba wo ye jata ngotena ho enkotena we mu ho maye mejimu mfa babu mejimu wo so hu so what you say na o ye jata ajeku menua bamba mechiel me hu Ghana din kura na ye me dekeke mo ma ye ntie ba ko bi so ha sei na fe ade me pharmacy ne mra wie ya bibifo na ti Easter no so what you say ti Easter si na ti ade ya si ade owie wu sore sana ye na namu fa na namu concert ye de abaye nyame ne ade na Easter so ye na namu celebrate new life ne ade no na no so ya je se Yesu awu mo ma ye fo mo asem nto ho Look now watch. Oba wa tina ma obi look akọ honhom akọ look watch. Now so also beti aye wa wasem before. Na montie we say na.
At this time, it's said symbolically the sun triumphs over darkness. As I stated before, in ancient times, this event had a spiritually symbolic meaning as a metaphor for becoming a Christ and a spiritual resurrection or enlightened state of being. As Christians, we saw the crosses as symbols, but never knew that they also had multiple layers of meaning, as you can see in the image above. The different crosses were marking the seasons in astrological time. From the Kemetic perspective of a soul, the physical person has become awakened to its soul self or has recognized its connection to its higher self. Becoming aware of your omnipotent aspect is a spiritual resurrection from the perspective of the Kemetic teachings. It is the spiritual rebirth. You're born again or resurrected from the death or ignorance of not knowing yourself as an eternal being of light. The enlightening of the soul is the light of the world. Do any of these ancient Kemetic ideas that were thousands of years old before Christianity sound familiar as characteristics of a certain supposed miracle of an individual? Of course they do. All these ancient metaphors for Christ were made historical in Jesus. But the ancient meanings were about the human journey of a soul, not someone who was special above all other humans that we were to revere. Astrologically speaking, it's the resurrection of the sun from death in the winter solstice. In the spring, it is the triumph of daylight becoming longer than nights. It was significant for agricultural reasons. Why wouldn't they revere these seasons in their time? Again, as seen above, the crosses all mark seasons. As Christians, you've seen the different representations of a cross and not realize its information hidden in plain sight. Philosophically speaking, the springtime is the individual that has gained the enlightenment of wisdom when they were ignorant before they became a Christ. Psychologically speaking, a person has learned something that causes a change in their behavior. This again is how the same metaphor for the sun can be looked at on different levels: agricultural, philosophical, and psychological. From a symbolic perspective, it's still relevant for humankind today. We know other nicknames for Jesus that have an underlying astrological meaning. When the sun, or Yehu the Sa, is at the strongest time of the year during the summer solstice, it's known as the lion, as it is in the sign of Leo. The ancient Africans said that the wind at the time of the year was like the hot breath of a lion. Hence, the reason a lion was picked for the sign of Leo. The Son of God, aka Jesus, became known as the Lion of Judah. The autumn equinox is the sign of Libra, the scales. The day is equal to night at this time. 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. In modern times, we commemorate all these points of the sun still. We just call them spring, summer, fall, and winter. In our modern cities, we don't think in terms of planting season as the ancients did. In terms of myth, Christ is born after the winter solstice, and according to the Gregorian calendar, the new year begins a few days later on January 1st. But for ancient peoples, the new year began in the springtime when all would begin to bloom. Isn't that more logical than the dead of winter? In ancient Kemetic science, in order for a human to be born into the world, the soul has to die first on the cross. The cross in ancient Kemet is symbolic of the four elements needed for a soul to cross from the metaphysical into the physical world. The sun died on the 22nd of December. Christianity skips over that aspect because it will not fit into the narrative of a historical Jesus. As a flesh and blood person, there cannot be a death and a resurrection. But symbolically, you can be born as a human and then born again spiritually. As a soul, you can leave one body and then reincarnate into another. For the ancient Egyptians, this was natural. Christ was born on December 25th, as an ancient meaning of the seed of transformation, of new beginnings, as the soul descended into matter. The seed of God being planted into the soil of mother or matter. The body symbolically becomes the womb in which the soul becomes enlightened or resurrected, or the tomb for the person that never awakens to know thyself as a soul. Again, two layers of meaning. As Christians, we celebrated the birth and resurrection on two different times of the year. Ancient Egyptians celebrated the birth of the old planting year, December 22nd, and the rebirth of the new planting year in the spring. It becomes a practical representation in nature and myth. When you think of it in these terms, you begin to intuitively make connections to your metaphysical experience. But going back to the beginning and the original question, have you ever wondered why Easter Sunday is a different day each year? Why wouldn't the resurrection of Jesus not be celebrated the same day as we did every December 25th according to his birth date? That's because it's again based on astrology. Easter is always on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. The resurrection and Easter is based on the movement of the sun and phases of the moon, not the resurrection of a God-man named Jesus. If you don't believe me, you can confirm when Easter occurs with an almanac, or just look it up on Google. Easter was a so-called pagan holiday commemorating the new planting season before it became the resurrection of Jesus. I would have to think that the Christian fathers living within an agricultural society would know the origin of the concept, but chose to change it to fit the historical narrative of their Jesus. So, now you know the real reason Easter became a holiday celebration and why astrology is considered satanic. It would allow you to uncover the greatest story ever told. On one level, the story within ancient Egyptian eschatology is about the journey of the soul. The story of Jesus in the Gospels on a natural level is symbolically about the journey of the sun through the zodiac. Within the eschatology is about the journey of the soul. Psychologically, Jesus and the signs of the zodiac are about the archetypal journey of a human being as he or she gains wisdom through life experience. Even if you no longer think of the Bible as a holy book, you can still find very relevant esoteric knowledge hidden in the scriptures. Esoterically speaking, the birth of Jesus on December 25th is symbolically the soul dying on the cross of matter or material to be born into the physical world. This is where Christianity switched and twisted the original teachings. Again, the material or matter or mother or the fleshly body is the womb or tomb of the soul. The resurrection is spiritual, representing a soul that becomes enlightened and connected to its higher self through the trials and tribulations of life. Those trials and tribulations of your physical life are the womb for your rebirth. The births are symbolic of the journey of a soul within every human being on the planet, not a miracle man. It's the birth or resurrection of you, the enlightened soul. Now you have knowledge of why Christmas and Easter are of such major significance on your journey as a soul beyond the Christian dogma. I've given you some knowledge, but it's only the tip of the iceberg. Will you rewire your mind to elevate from the programming? Are you in the womb ready to be enlightened and reborn? Or will this body be your tomb, trapped by the stresses of this life? Are you ready to awaken, or will you stay asleep with fear as your constant companion? The choice is always yours. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.
Before someone made a link, at home. My link in the website, Facebook, YouTube. Okwa, ubetuma watch full video ni nyina. Na eno no. Yesu ene new year ni nyina asem ohu they get it wrong edu ti Ghana ho na si new year na nyame aisane ababa be hye nkoma eye ntoro before momi enfanto ho so wate ase ne yenkokwa adi tete atimpon no eno ene bebo yen enye ntoro no omudi kire yen no onkotena ho ma yen kan kiro so ubeyeye obibini wa wunim so wate ase ubeyeye a ese wa wu hu eniema adie effort o putu ne wo bremu o tori adwini sika adie yase adie boni nyina hini ani sika pe menua enye saa ye ntro do sika pesika na do sika na sika so ado sika wa no na no eye energy if you don't pay attention to it or no so pay attention to you pay attention to sika ba chiro ba bia sika wo amwa sisa ya di saa de na hye ya adwene mu free ye mpanyimfo so from top to adie no enti na Ghana ho ye bere no ye ndwene dwempa ye ndwene sika ye ndwene abrabopa asetena pa dwene wo dwene ma ho dwene ma wo manma so what yese ye manma na dwene ma wo mu na emre eniema yeye wo ye ohene na ote ho a gold no wi afa bi sisi apartment efa ma you to na ye ba na ye pedan ya han no in advance or ye adwuma nko a mane nkotene mbosumi bia wontwia eyesika emanipa so hotono ebeboa ama obi asole osu wosi dan na ya toto nsase ya yese ye didan ese ye nsase no etuo betwa so what ya bebrasi because so what sole na wunya wo apartment a wo bathroom wo kitchen ne wadie ya o bath ne o toilet and bath no kitchen hall living room ne o bedroom one na bedwene force so kwa akusi dan aye de dan sie ase ye nsase nyina sese before dwena dwempa so what yasie do sika sesika eye nipa fanadamfo meka ase madamfo ba de ga ba ko adwuma mu black american no ye adie na o se adwuma no se na wabre enye so ohia sika ankomba na mse me de enye se me hia sika ba log money oh don't say that I don't say so do sika nya na mse hwe sika so ye nipa anka mefa na damfo oye bema anka meka se ware me na fa adin sika to me so what you say sika do sika na sika do hu sika na sika do enye bone dwuna dwempa dwune so believe good say ne wo ye ego be ego to live good obibini na beba nso ama na ne me de musia no me de ne no gwada no still an eye cozy intimi hifie enti no na ne me de kwa no oba de no enka obi a ho mechia obi a obaba etimbaba betie mi mechia obi a before na me de musi he ya oba de no ka obi a mo bye.